Wine, red as a freshly opened wound, a carpet, the same, swallowing the sound of 1,000 whispered lies, a constellation of celebrities and jewels, a galaxy of contrived smiles so bright they hurt the eyes. I floated through it all in a cloud of white gauze, a gown that clung and flowed, its weight a constant reminder of the golden chains I wore. It trailed on the floor like a ghost's last sigh. It was a custom piece, a whisper from my private designer you couldn't buy in any store, an armor of silk and thread, molded to my body, every stitch a conspiracy to showcase my assets. The slit, scandalously high, was designed to make my hip line a focal point under the strobing, predatory flashes of the cameras. I knew those photos would be splashed across 100 websites by morning. Headline news for the envious. This was the dividend of being a socialite, the interest paid on a soul sold long ago. Countless women, nursing their own high society fantasies from the glow of their screens, would study me, mimic my posture, my wardrobe, my every calculated glance and smile. They would see a goddess. They wouldn't see the hollow space where a person used to be. The party was scheduled to end at 10. The air was growing thin with forced laughter. At 9:40, my husband arrived to collect me. He pulled up in his new Porsche Panamera, the engine a low, predatory growl that cut through the chatter like a knife. His name was Sebastian Prescott, though he preferred the casual confidence of Seb, a name that sounded like money even when whispered. I had orchestrated his early arrival, a deliberate stage play for the benefit of the onlookers. What good is devotion if it can't be weaponized for envy? It's just an emotion, useless and sentimental. It worked, of course, it worked. When Seb, draped in a white suit, a Patek Philippe glittering like a supernova on his wrist, and a bouquet of fire-red roses in hand, emerged from the obsidian car and strode towards me. The raw jealousy in the eyes of the surrounding women was a drug. I could almost feel the phantom sting of their thorns through the thick wrapping paper as I took them, a perfect metaphor. It filled me with a profound, almost shameful, satisfaction. It was the only real thing I'd felt all night. Darling, he murmured, his voice a warm current in the cool night air, for all to hear. Let's go. I've had the bath drawn for you, milk and roses, of course. I'm afraid I must be leaving, I announced, with practiced grace, a queen abandoning her court. Then, I took my husband's arm, feeling the taut muscle beneath the expensive fabric, and we slipped into the plush back seat of the Panamera. The door closed with a heavy, satisfying thud, sealing us in a world of new leather and old money. Dante, drive, Seb commanded the man at the wheel. Yes, Mr. Prescott. The voice from the front was flat, devoid of emotion. The driver, Dante, stomped on the gas. The Porsche didn't just accelerate, it lunged, a monstrous roar tearing through the night as we left the party behind in a blur of light and sound. In the back, my hand remained in my husband's, a perfect portrait of marital bliss. Vesper, you are exquisite, Seb breathed, his eyes hot, his tone thick with an urgency that was both thrilling and part of the script. Then his hand began its trespass, a slow, deliberate exploration over the silk of my gown. A proprietary claim, my skin prickled under the fabric. I was a woman in my prime. The alcohol a warm tide in my veins, and a flicker of genuine heat sparked within me. A traitorous response I quickly extinguished, but not here, not in the car. I shifted, a subtle evasion of his touch, my body stiffening almost imperceptibly. Seb, someone's here. He laughed, a low, dismissive sound that rumbled in his chest. You mean Dante? He's not a stranger. He's practically furniture. He was right. Dante was anything but a stranger. Many people knew me as Vesper Carlyle, the socialite, the wife of the heir Sebastian Prescott. What they didn't know was that this was my second marriage, and Dante, the man now driving with unnerving focus, his eyes fixed on the road, seemingly oblivious to the intimacy unfolding behind him, was my first husband. We arrived at the sprawling estate on the hill, a fortress of glass and stone against the night sky, as Seb and I walked towards the grand entrance, his arm possessively around my waist. Dante parked the car and prepared to leave on his own electric scooter, a pathetic chariot for a fallen king. He was heading back to his place, back to our old home, the place where my nightmares were born. We had just reached the courtyard, the scent of night blooming jasmine thick in the air, when Seb's phone rang. He listened for a moment, then turned to me, his face a mask of practiced apology. Darling, something's come up, a game tonight. You see, like all men of his class, my husband was a creature of leisure and obligation. Billiards was his particular vice, a ritual shared with a tight-knit circle of friends. Go, I said, my voice smooth as silk, the model of understanding. Just don't be too late. This was the unwritten rulebook of being a Prescott wife. Be beautiful, be fashionable, and most importantly, be accommodating. Protect your husband's image, especially in front of his peers. Never be a burden. Seb planted a chaste kiss on my cheek, cool lips, no passion, and, without summoning Dante, climbed into a different car, a formidable Range Rover, and sped away into the darkness. Alone, I sat at my exquisite vanity table, the reflection showing a perfect porcelain doll. The ritual of removing my makeup was a slow, deliberate process of peeling away the lie. Then my phone buzzed, a low, venomous sound, a text from an unsaved number. The usual place. I froze, my hand stilled, the cotton pad hovering over my cheek. The phone in my other hand suddenly felt like a block of ice. The glamorous gown was shed, slithering to the floor in a heap of white silk. It was replaced by jeans and a simple t-shirt, armor of a different kind, sunglasses, a baseball cap, and a mask completed my transformation. I slipped out the back, a ghost in my own home, carefully evading the unblinking red eyes of the security cameras. A brisk walk of a few hundred yards brought me outside the gilded cage of the Villa District, where I hailed a cab, its yellow light a beacon in the oppressive dark. The road down the mountain was a study in social geography. As the altitude dropped, so did the scenery, like descending into the circles of hell. The manicured lawns of the villas gave way to towering, anonymous apartment blocks. An hour later, in the city's outskirts, the landscape devolved further into a chaotic sprawl of low-rise buildings and decaying tenements. Graffiti bled across crumbling walls. Illegal structures jutted out at odd angles, and the streets glistened with a film of grime that caught the jaundiced streetlights. The air was thick with the scent of sewage and cheap frying oil, a smell I thought I had escaped forever. Here, the neon signs of seedy massage parlors cast an ugly pink glow, and the desperate roars of gamblers echoed from hidden dens. This was was where I was born, where I grew up, where I was married, and where I had been broken. It felt both familiar and alien, like returning to the scene of a crime you yourself were the victim of. I entered Dante's room, the door whined. On its hinges, it was as I remembered, a chaotic, filthy den, an assault on the senses, clothes, shoes, empty liquor bottles, and cigarette butts littered the floor. A sticky patch on the linoleum held my shoe for a moment too long. Up in the villa, I lived in a curated version of heaven. This was the raw, unfiltered truth of the world. This was his kingdom of squalor. Dante was smoking, the hay swirling around a face that was, I had to admit, still brutally handsome. His features were sharp, his eyes holding a defiant, cruel charisma. It was that face that had captivated a younger, foolish version of me. Gone was the meek, obedient driver from a few hours ago. Here, his posture was different. He owned the space. His expression was a raw mix of lust and menace. That pampered brat go off to play with his little balls again? He asked, grinding the cigarette out on the already scarred floor. Yes. My voice was a whisper. Did he touch you tonight? You were dressed for it. His eyes raked over me, stripping away my simple clothes, seeing the ghost of the gown beneath. No, he had plans with friends. Useless piece of trash. Dante snarled. He rose and stalked towards me, his movements like a predator closing in. Kneel. My body betrayed me with a tremor. My knees felt weak, watery, but I held my ground. Dante, don't. He laughed, a short, sharp bark. Don't. Who are you to tell me don't? He took another step. The air grew thick. Kneel. This time, my body obeyed the old command. I sank to the floor. He leaned over me, his fingers digging into my face, forcing my chin up. His voice was a low sneer. It's been a year. How is it your womb is still so useless? Without a child, how do you expect to get a real piece of his fortune? These rich families are careful. Every baby gets a DNA test. I can't even lend you my seed to get the job done. I bowed my head, biting my lip in silence, tasting blood. Has that idiot even mentioned a marriage license? You had a ceremony, a party, but without that piece of paper, you have no real claim. My lawyer said a common law marriage can still get you a piece of the pie, but it's not as clean. You need to work harder. Don't waste the training I gave you. At the mention of the license, my eyes darkened. It was true. For all our public displays of affection, Seb and I had never officially registered our marriage. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms. I looked up, my voice a desperate plea. Dante, let me give you some money, a lot of money. Just, let me go, please.